Hello! Today I'm going to show you how to make zigzag paper streamers. You'll need scissors, paper, and possibly tape, depending on how long you want to make the streamers. I'm actually using cardstock. I bought this at Target. It's Neha brand. The paper I'm using is 8.5 by 11. If you have legal size paper, you could do that. You can pretty much use any size paper you want. It's just going to affect what your finished product looks like, but you know, it's up to you. So you want 2 longer strips. So you're going to cut it in half. I am just guesstimating on what is center, and then cutting a line across. If you have a paper cutter, you can use that, but I don't, so I'm just using regular scissors. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it perfectly center or perfectly straight. These are really forgiving. Alright, so now you're left with 2 sheets. And I didn't do too bad. Well, a little crooked there at the end. Normally when I'm actually not cutting away from me, I'm cutting this way. It usually comes out a little straighter, but anyway. Alright, so then what you're going to do is starting, this is probably what, 3/4 of an inch away from the end. I could use a ruler, I guess, but whatever. Alright, and you're going to start cutting. And then when you are about 1/2 inch from the end, you're going to stop. So basically you're not cutting all the way through. See? And then you turn the sheet. And you're going to do the exact same thing, making sure not to cut all the way through. And you're just going to continue all the way to the end. Now you can make the distance between your cuts thicker or more narrow, just depending on what you like the look of. I would say experiment. I think the first time I tried this, I made them a little too wide. The strips a little too wide, and the streamers just weren't that long. So I prefer the ones that are a little slimmer. And I made that one a little too slim. Oh well. Like I said, imperfections are good. Okay, and then you get to the end, you just make the one cut. Hopefully you don't end up with like a weird thin strip or a weird thick one. If you end up with a thick one, you can always just cut the right size, and if you end up with a really thin one at the end, you can just cut straight through. Alright, now this is what you should have. And see, if you start to pull on it, okay, see? That's what happens when you pull it out. So it looks sort of like little parentheses, sort of. Alright, I've hung this up on the wall just so I can show you what it looks like, when one itself looks like when it's hung up. I just used a piece of tape to secure it to the wall. If you're making this beforehand, you can, you know, put it on a dowel rod, or, you know, some yarn or a piece of string or whatever. You know, if you're gonna like hang it up, you would be able to do that ahead of time, but you know, it doesn't really matter. Using tape's fine. I'm actually going to be using balloons to cover the top, so it won't even show. Now, as you can see, I've hung it this way so it, like, the points come out, but you can hang it sideways, but you have to bend. You have to bend it and then tape it there, and then it'll hang like this, which I actually think is really, really pretty, and it looks nice when they're all kind of grouped together, which I'll show you. Different colors and things are all grouped together. Now this one, because I cut pretty thin, it's fairly long. As you can see, it's sort of, they don't stretch out as much when you get to the bottom. You can just bend it if you need to, whichever. Now if you want really, really long streamers, what you do is you make a second one and then you tape it. And I will show you how to overlap those. Alright, but anyway, you can see I basically just laid this piece, the last piece on it, on top of the top piece of the next piece, and making sure that it makes the same zigzag shape. And you can just tape them together. You can use double-sided tape or regular tape, whatever. And see, once I've added the second piece, it makes them really, really long. If you're setting these up, you know, behind a table, you probably won't actually need to use the second sheet. It just depends what you are doing with them. This is what it looks like when you put the streamers all together. Obviously, this isn't a very dense presentation, but I think it looks good. Okay, and I will actually show you what it looks like with a little bit more embellishment as well. Okay, and this is the finished product. You can see that it's obviously a little bit more embellished, but it makes it really pretty.